Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. And if you're here for the first time, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, a veteran in this channel, welcome back for yet another exciting episode of Risk, Money and Insurance. And so today, I know it's been forever. Like, I was here, I was there, I was neither here nor there, and I just disappeared. But you know what? I come back and I'm super just excited to say there are great things that are coming. I come back bearing good news that the project that I told you guys I was doing, it's finally, like, I want to say 99.9% done. And I am so excited to finally reveal everything to you guys. But this is not what this video is about. That's just me trying to explain why I had disappeared. I disappeared because I felt I had to focus my attention on that, and work as well was a bit hectic. But now I'm back, baby, back like I never left. So today I thought to just open up Women's Month, and happy Women's Month, by the way, to all the women that watch this channel. I checked my stats. We have around 70% of the people that actually watch the videos are actually women, and I'm like, man, that is amazing. I believe that women are the heart of our communities, and in order to impact change, we need to impact women, and hence I'm all about women empowerment. So here I am today just to say happy Women's Month, and I do hope that we use this month to come together and continue to make ripple effect in our communities and the lives of people around us. But today, the topic of today is something that I've been thinking about a lot recently because of an incident that happened. But it just made me realize that there are things that we think should be automatic. Like, there are things that we believe you should just have them. Or just the mere fact that you exist, you should have them because of the mere fact that you exist. And we take away from the fact that those things need work. Like, if you want to be good at relationships, you need to work on that. If you want to be a person of excellence, you need to work on that. If you want to be a person that shows up and know how to show up 100%, you gotta work at that. But somehow in our society these days, if you want to be someone who's good with money, you have to work on that. Just like with this channel, as we try to help people become, better financial managers or steward of their finances. It's work. It is something that we have to work on. It's not something automatic. It's not something that comes naturally. I feel like for a lot of people, we have an inclination towards spending rather than saving. So we need to work on our lives. We need to work on things for them to work. And it's part of adulting. Super excited about this topic about financial boundaries, right? To say, what are financial boundaries? Do you have them, right? And we talk about boundaries when it comes to relationships. We talk about boundaries when it comes to work life, work and life outside of work. We talk about boundaries when it comes to all the other things. But we never really speak about financial boundaries, right? To say, but how far is actually too far? Because that's what boundaries essentially do, right? They show you how far it's too far. And if we were to sort of picture boundaries as a wall, it will be like if there's a wall between your house and another person's house, where the boundary is, that's where your power or your ownership ends. And on the other side of the boundary, that's where another person's power or another person's ownership sort of starts. And the same thing, we can think about boundaries as those things, they tell you where the limit is. But it is very important to be able to identify where your boundaries are. And like all the other things in life that need work, setting boundaries and having boundaries actually require work. And why I am bringing up this conversation, so I did say that there was an incident that happened, like it was related to money, and it was just around helping out someone who was in need. Like I'll call them a friend. I consider them a friend, helping out a friend that was in need. And there was a whole lot of things happening in that story. Like it started out well, we had an agreement, and I actually made it clear that, listen, this is just a loan. I am not giving this money to you. This is just a loan. But at the same time, I had to sacrifice my petrol money. I remember, because it was really like, it felt really like it was a serious situation, right? And I was like, I will sacrifice my petrol money for this, right? To help out this person. And I remember, like, when it came to them, like, and I explicitly told them, like, listen, I totally understand your decrement, and I feel like I want to help. And this is what I'm using. This money already has a purpose, because at that time I had already created a budget, and I had set my stuff, like my savings are gone, everything is gone, like the money that I'm left with has some tag attached to it. And I remember just telling them that this is my frustration, but I feel like your situation is very urgent. I don't really need petrol money right now, but if you're going to be able to give this money back next week, we're going to be cool, right? And I remember next week came, and there were stories I had to follow up. There were stories and there were stories and there were stories. And I was like starting to question myself, like, do I have boundaries? Because at that point, it made me just sit down and realize, but how far is actually too far when it comes to you helping out someone? Like, this whole situation is getting out of hand. Now it's a situation where originally, according to my original plan, I had intended to set aside this money for a particular thing, and now things are just getting messed up because this person is not keeping to their word. And I knew that I didn't have free money, but because I was just touched by the whole thing, I ended up lending them money either way, because I was like, listen, I do like feel for them and stuff. And it just made me think around my boundaries. Like, do I even have boundaries when it comes to how far I am willing to go to help out someone, especially when the story is touching and convincing them? I also just feel like, oh God, I need to help out this person. Because to be quite honest, in reflection, I was like, I had no business doing everything that I did, moving mountains and inconveniencing myself and doing all that stuff, knowing very well that this is actually money that I wasn't willing to lose. Like, literally lending them money that I knew that I needed this money. There's no way that now I'm going to have to go dig into my savings simply because I was now stretching way beyond than what I had intended to stretch. And so it just made me like sit down and say, I think we need to have boundaries. We need to really sit down and reflect on some of the things and how far we're willing to go to get some of the things done. And this is not to say you can't help out people, right? But also it's a thing of, you can help out people, but how far are you willing to go to help out someone, right? It also just brings in an interesting topic around, black tax, although other people don't subscribe to the idea that it's called black tax, but it is tax if it's an obligation. But anyways, people say I'm helping out my family. There's that. But also the issue of boundary, I was thinking about it also in that term to say, okay, my situation might be a bit minor. It's a friend. It's a once-off thing. It's not even that serious. But now dig deeper into things like helping out family members, because there's also an element of, I need to help my family. I need to, I want good things for them and all of that, which is amazing. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to dispute all of that to say you shouldn't help out your family. Just think about yourself only. You shouldn't do anything. You shouldn't make sacrifices for your family. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm also saying, how far are you willing to go with those sacrifices? Like, how far is too far for you when it comes to finances and inconveniencing yourself in order to help other people? And that was one thing that I had to sit down and reflect on, to say, but where are my boundaries, and how far is too far for me? Like, I started off with like simple things, like, would I actually take out a loan for a friend, right? Like, would I take out a loan for a friend? Because let's say for example a friend needs money, I have a credit facility in my young professionals account. I started asking myself, would you actually do that for a friend? Or would you do that for like a family member? Would you do that for someone? So it was just like me trying to suss out my boundaries. I was like, what about, loans, like a mortgage or whatever? I was listening to Kaya FM and they were talking about, this other girl was talking about an uncle that wanted her to take out a mortgage to essentially buy an apartment that will be under the uncle's name, but the uncle will be paying her money like those loan installments on a monthly basis. I was like, I saw it. Like, for big things like that, it's 20 years, it's a huge commitment. I can't. So I started sussing it out, like, I'm not willing to take out a loan or like use my credit facility to help out someone, right? Like help out a friend. I'm not. But say for example, if it's like a family thing, then I've got emergency fund for that. So I won't be willing unless if there's something wrong, like I can't access my funds for whatsoever reason, then I might do it knowing very well that I've got money on the side that I'm gonna like put into this thing and pay it off, because I'm using money that I know I already have. But using money that I don't have, that's something I'm not willing to do. And then there were also other things like, okay, what about, buying someone a car, or like, I guess someone else buying a car using your name, your credentials and all of that. I'm like, no, those are some of the things that are like way obvious. And so just moving on with that conversation, I started just like asking myself, okay, if I want to set boundaries, what are some of the things that I need to like really think about? And I went through the whole process, and now I'm just going to share all of that with you in this video to talk about, say, how do you actually end up setting financial boundaries? Because at the end of the day, situations will come up in life. That's what I've realized. Life will present you with very interesting situations. Some situations are way trickier, and other situations you might not think about them. Like, you might not think that there's a possibility that something like that might happen until it actually happens. But it's very important to also know, like, this is how far I'm willing to go, and this is how far I am not willing to go. Like, wouldn't take out a loan to like borrow my boyfriend money or whatever. Like, wouldn't do that. Wouldn't take out a loan, for stupid things. Like, I wouldn't like open a credit or like a credit card or whatever on behalf of someone else that I have no business opening a credit card or whatever for, unless if they're my child. I will then consider that. But like for any other person, I wouldn't. Why would I put myself in such a very tricky situation? So the first thing would be, how do you like establish boundaries? The first thing that I realized was that we need to have values and our own priorities, right? When it comes to values, at church we say these are predetermined decisions. Like, these ones, it's stuff that you've already decided on. You've already made a decision to say, this one I will not do. This one I will do. Whether it rains, whether it's sunny, whether it's snowing for the first time in South Africa, I will not do this, right? Not in South Africa, in Joburg. I will not do this, right? So it's those little things that you essentially have predetermined that you won't do. And when it comes to situations that arise, you know very well that you are not going to cross that boundary. You've already decided in your heart and in your mind, and it doesn't matter how amazing the person is, doesn't matter who they are, but this is something that you yourself, you've determined that I am not going to do this. And another one is around priorities. And this is a very touchy one, because whenever we talk about personal finances, we almost make it feel like it's a blanket approach. And it's not. Like, every single one of us, we've got different priorities. And I was having an interesting chat with a friend of mine today, just around how we are all working. It all seems like when you're on social media, it all seems like the playing field is level. Like, we are all on the same playing field or whatever, until you actually tap into the realities of people's stories and your own story to realize that we are not playing on the same level field. Like, some people don't have to pay for their car installments. Other people don't have to worry about rent. Their parents have that covered. They bought them a car, they bought them an apartment. Their money is just for vibes and food and whatever else that they need to do, buying clothes, whatever else they need to do. And then there's me and you, maybe, who we have to sort ourselves out with You know, our cars, we need to see them out. Rent, you need to see that out. Food, it's still looking at you. Clothes, it's still looking at you. Entertainment, still looking at you. It's a one-man thing where here you're adulting 101. Even going to your parents, sometimes you're just like, going to my parents is not really an option. And there are people that on a monthly basis are getting installments from their parents and they're still getting a salary. Other people have got installments from their boyfriends coming in through, so they have 3 streams of income: their own salary, their parents, and their boyfriends or their girlfriends, whichever one it is. So it's very, very very personal. Finances are very personal because your priorities and my priorities based on our circumstances won't be the same. You can afford to buy Steve Madden every single month, buy a new pair of Steve Madden every single month or whatever, and it might not even feel like you've done anything to your finances because you don't have to worry about rent, you don't have to worry about food, you don't have to worry about transport, all that is sorted. But for someone going to buy Steve Madden every single month, it's a stretch because of other commitments that they have. Another person, it might be, they're not only just taking care of themselves, you know, the living expenses that I spoke about, they might be taking care of their family back at home. They've got younger siblings who are still at school, and pocket money, it's them. Transport for the kids, it's them. Grocery for the family, it's them. All the other stuff that may arise at home, it's them. So that's already like another dimension, another level. But we all come on social media and we act like we have the same priorities and we have the same goals, which is not true because we don't. If we look at it, if we all try to, you know, live the same life or like prioritize the same things, we are only hurting ourselves because at the end of the day, you will now start depending on credit to just literally get through the month. And once you get into that space of depending on credit, of depending on, you know, money from the bank or whatever, it snowballs. It's just a never-ending vicious cycle where money comes in. By the time you've made repayments, minimum repayments for your debts, you're already in the negative. So you need to borrow just to keep up with your living expenses, which is not an amazing or a great place to be honest. So we need to have values and also have our own priorities. Like where you are right now, where you are as a person, what are you prioritizing? What's important to you at this point in time, right? Is it just literally making sure that you are able to pay for all your expenses, and after paying for all your expenses, you're able to save as well or invest on the side? Is it you want to help out your family, save a little bit more, or what is it? You know, help out your family, not save at all. What are your priorities? What is it that, you know, you feel is important to you as an individual, rather than what other people think is important or what you think other people think is important, and you end up going for that. And number 2, attached to that, is self-acceptance, especially in around setting your own financial boundaries. Like, self-acceptance is so important. Accept yourself. There are moments where I sit down and I have to remind myself of who I am. Like, I have to remind myself of, this is you, this is where you're at, this is what's going on in your life, this is what you're trying to build. Because I won't lie, it's not every day that I feel I want to make the best financial decisions. There are moments where I'm like, I can be reckless, I'm too responsible. There are moments where I'm like, I'm too responsible, man. I must just create chaos, nyana, you know, be reckless, nyana, I'll come back, recover. But there are moments where I have to sit myself down and say, you can't do that this month. Maybe when you get a bonus or something, but this month you can't do that this month. You know, there's this and this that we're trying to work towards, and accepting that probably at this point in my life I can't afford a Louis Vuitton. I can't afford, you know, like a 5 Louis Vuitton bags or whatever, and it's okay. And just accepting like where you are as a person is so important, because when it comes to your boundaries, you won't try to go over and above your means or like over and above what is within your reach, simply because you don't know how far is too far for you and your finances. Like, you just need to accept that, listen, I will afford an expensive item here and there, right? When I get additional income, or when my things are looking up, or once I've done this, or once I've done this and that, I will be able to do that. But for now, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. For now, I can't. It's okay. And it's really okay. And I have to have, I don't know how many times I've had pep talks with myself to say, baby girl, you can't afford to do that now. And being able to be okay with that, like, I can't. And it's okay to not be able to do it. If I want to do it, I will try to find a way to say, but is there a workaround? Can we plan our things in order so that, we're able to do this? If I feel it's really important to me and it's something that I honestly want to do, then I'll look for a workaround, like, oh, we need a vacation. Probably can't go abroad. We're doing something right now that's making us bleed money. The projects that I've been talking about, it's making us bleed money. So we can't afford a trip international, but can we afford a trip local? Yeah, so we're going to do that for your birthday or whatever. So it's very important to accept yourself and where you are and what you're able to afford and what you can't afford. And another thing is also just around budgeting and sticking to your budgets. That discipline of saying, I am not going to spend this much and actually follow through, that's very powerful. And I had something very powerful recently around, it's so important. It's your mind like wherever you want to go, train your mind first and your mind will take you there. Like whatever it is, whatever goal that you've set for yourself, just train your mind first, and then your mind will take you there. You cannot expect your mind to take you where you haven't trained it to actually when you haven't had that sufficient time to train your mind. So even with a budget, and also just around the discipline of being able to do something, like I dread sometimes creating a monthly budget because I'm like, now I'm gonna realize where all my money is going, and I'm gonna realize how broke I am after doing this and all of that. Like there's that where I'm like, and I'm gonna realize that there's money that I'm setting aside that I could be chowing and all of that. And it's just an important aspect of it to say you must have the discipline. And even on months where I create my budgets late, I can definitely tell from my spending that, baby girl, you created your budget today. Like the money came in, all the debit orders went out, or like all my savings went out in investments. I was just left with this pot of money that I'm like, okay, I need to spend this on this. If I haven't allocated what is going where, then I start increasing my takeaway intake because I'm going to delay going to buy groceries. So I'm cooking less, I'm eating out more. And then from there, it's going to be like, I'm going to have impromptu dates and do stupid things that I never even intended to do. Now I've exceeded my entertainment budget. And I've got all these other things creeping up. And then by the time I realize that, whoa, life has taken a short turn, I now come back and be like, okay, we need to sort out our budgets. How much can we spend? How can we allocate whatever that's remaining? Which is actually like a really, really really dangerous approach to go about it, because I could have just allocated my money to this and say, this is what I'm able to do this month, and that's okay. The other stuff that I want to do, I can either sacrifice my entertainment, sacrifice other things within my budget to make room for them. But without doing that, I end up messing up my life and messing up everything else that comes, afterwards. So it's also important to have that discipline to follow through, with your budgets, and to say, if someone is coming to you and they've got something that they need, right? You're able to even say, for this month, if I am saying, my boundary ends here, I am able to help out someone with 5,000 rands or 100 rands or 500 rands, but I know for sure that beyond that, I can't. And beyond that means, like, if I'm going over and above, I'll have to rely now on credit, or like dig into my savings, or dig into other pockets of money that I have that I wasn't meant to use. Unless if it's a family emergency, then emergency fund, you can go dig in there. But for other general things, like other just fancy shimonchi things, you actually shouldn't be digging into your emergency funds to satisfy people's wants. Like, why are you sacrificing your future for something so trivial? So it's also that as well. And how you can also go about like creating, financial boundaries and all of that is learning to say no. And man, this is, I say this all the time, like it's so painful to actually say no, especially when it's people you love. And I've learned to actually say, hey, it's okay. Like, just because you're working doesn't mean you'll be able to respond to every need that is out there. And being able to say no, not only to other people, but to say no to yourself as well. Because it's so funny how, you know, we talk about leadership, we talk about leading other people and all of that. But then the one person you should be really trying to discipline, really trying to like put under control is yourself. Like, you need to sort you out. You need to be able to say no to yourself before you can say no to someone else. If you're not able to say no to yourself, then it's going to be really difficult to also no to other people. So you must be willing to say no, even to yourself, to say, it's not going to work. Like, I'm saying no for this month. It might be not now. No, that means not now. Or no, that means not yet. Or just a complete no, flat out no, that, baby girl, we're not doing that. And be clear as well in terms of what are the things that you are saying no to now. You know, it might be like something that you want to splurge on now and you're like, no, not yet, maybe next month. So you budget that for next month. Or like things that you say no, like it's a no, it's not happening at all. Whether you come tomorrow, next year, 10 years time, it's not happening. Like taking out a loan for your boyfriend, it's not happening. It should just be a no, a simple no. Like, it's very simple. It's a simple no. We are not changing our minds in relating to this. So those are like some of the things that you can take into consideration and sit down to reflect to say, but how much is too far for me when it comes to finances? How much am I willing to stretch myself, you know, when it comes to finances, to help out other people, or to just have fun, or to do whatever else that you've always wanted to do. And the last thing, right, to just how to create those financial boundaries and all of that is to have clear set out goals for yourself. Like, be clear about what you're working towards. Because if you're not clear about what you're working towards, then essentially whatever money that you get is free. It doesn't have a price tag to it. It can go anywhere. But when you have price tags to money that's coming in, then you're able to reinforce that boundary to say, I am not willing to, you know, deviate from the goal that I've set for myself simply because there's a minor inconvenience that has popped up for myself or for another person. So it's also important to be very clear about your goals, financial goals as well. And one thing that I've been doing, like every single month, I create my budget, and underneath, so I use like an Excel spreadsheet, and underneath I set myself like monthly goals. So what is important for me? To pop out money for a project that I'm running, or, you know, I want to pop out money to buy more stocks for the socks that I'm selling, because I've been selling socks. And it's also like very important to have clear goals. Like this month, I want to like afford myself a weekend getaway. Like that can be a goal. You can set that up to say, I am really looking forward to my weekend getaway. I've budgeted for it. This is how much it's going to cost. And this month, I'm not too worried about anything else. This is where my money is going. So it's very important to have those clear goals every single month. It's not a once-off process. And we normally think, you know, we'll do New Year resolutions, we'll do a half-year review, and then we'll wing it in between. No, you need to sit down and say, yes, baby girl, you said you were going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Why has that not happened? What's actually happening? You know, like, how far are you? What can you be doing on a monthly basis to get there? Because at the end of the day, it's what you do consistently that will determine that particular outcome at the end of the day. Like if it's 100K, you're breaking that down into smaller chunks and you're saving towards that on a month-to-month basis. It becomes more achievable rather than saying, oh, I have a goal to save 100K, and on a month-to-month basis, your budgets do not speak to that goal. Anything else that you have doesn't speak to that goal. And it just becomes really messed up because you have this big dream but no action plan to implement whatever it is that you want to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and give me your thoughts in the comment section. I haven't done, you know, give your thoughts in the comment section around financial boundaries. Like, what are some of the things that you have predetermined that this I won't do? What are some of the things that you are able to live with and all of that? And do you have financial boundaries? You know, like, do you have them as we speak? So thank you so much for watching until this point. I love you guys so much, and I would just like you to do me a favor. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. You know, we just want to get to 3,000 subscribers.